Hello and welcome to my guest today. It's Mark Allen, who's a renowned tax expert and provides tax services to various people. He's also a senior member in practice. So welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Steve, and thank you for letting me come on this broadcast with you. And hello to you for all joining us as well.
No, that's great. So, Mark, how did you become a member in practice to start with? What did you do before, and what made you sort of make the change?
Well, I started off with 3 global listed companies, worked at a very senior position in that, worked for a couple of entrepreneurs, and learned a few skills, different skills there. Got involved in tax in particular, with the owners' affairs, on top of what I'd done in the global companies, and then decided I wanted to work for myself, but I didn't have huge amounts of capital at the side, so I had to use the neck-top computer and what was in there with a very little resource. And back in September 1991, I decided to start a practice, and that was where it came from, with sort of virtually no capital, no office, no clients, and no equipment.
I think lots of people start off from that sort of starting point. I think almost anybody who starts a business starts off with very little in the beginning. You've got to, it takes time to build a client base and to get the resources you need to start with in the beginning. So it's really difficult for everybody, really, I think. And one of the things that's really useful to accountants who are starting out is building up a bank of resources that you can call on. You don't have to do everything yourself. There are plenty of other things you can call on, and of course, one of those resources is of course TAG. So, how does TAG work, and how does it help accountants?
Yeah, well, back in the day when I started, I was fortunate enough to know other accountants in practice locally. And they were extremely helpful. You know, if I got stuck or needed an answer on something that I was unsure about. TAG really evolved after I semi-retired and I'd sold my practice, and decided that we wanted a new venture. So with a business partner, we set TAG up, if you like, almost as a challenger bank would be to the huge banks, huge clearing banks. We wanted to offer something that was a challenger to the top 20 UK accounting firms. So we built up lots and lots of technical expertise and departments, if you like, within TAG, so that accountants can come to us for assistance. And they can do that for free, or they can join us on a subscription basis, in which case they will actually get some remuneration on projects that go ahead. So whether it be legal matters, we've got a legal team. If it's tax matters, we've got a tax team, and that extends internationally, not just in the UK. Insolvency team, wealth management and financial services, health and safety, and employment law, and so on. It goes on. So we basically said, let's tick all the boxes that the services you would be able to go and get off the big four. Good, solid regional accountancy practices, no matter what size they are, can now offer those services and know that they can dip into the expertise. So I suppose looking back from my early days, it was like, well, who did I ask, and how could we make that simpler for regional practices to punch above their weight?
No, I think that's really good. I mean, I didn't know that TAG had such a wide range of services. Actually, I mean, that does cover most of the bases, and that's really useful to anybody starting out, because clients want those kind of services. But when you first start out, you don't have all those services necessarily. You don't have the skills to deliver those things. So rather than try and do things that perhaps you don't know that well, using services like TAG is a great way to promote yourself and gain work that perhaps you wouldn't have otherwise gained. So it's a great service for new accountants.
Yeah, well, sorry, Steve. Yeah, but we very much see it that way, and that you can you can actually co-brand with us if you're a member of TAG. And obviously that phrase I use of punching above your weight, it means you can perhaps pitch to clients that you might be a bit nervous about pitching to otherwise.
Yeah, no, I understand that, because nobody has standard sets of circumstances. We, you know, in HMRC's world, they think that, you know, everybody follows the you know, you can match yourself to the text that they've got and it's all great. But I don't think I've ever met anybody who actually fits exactly neatly into one of their sets of criteria. There's always something a little bit quirky about everybody. And as you say, if you're a new accountant going into, you know, a meeting with a client, you get questions you're not really sure about, but knowing that you've got the backup available, it's really important to make sure that you've got somebody to go back to who can make sure you get the right answers.
Sure.
So that's a vital service. So that's
really knowing when to ask, and for people who are newer into practice or thinking about going into practice, as you say, Steve, if you know that there's somebody you can turn to if you're unsure about something, then that help is always there. And so don't be fearful. It's incredible just the brethren of accountancy, how helpful people are, for sort of newer practitioners and so forth. So.
Yeah, I think that's particularly true about CIMA members, perhaps more than other institutes. We do tend to want to help each other rather than see ourselves as competition to everybody else. There's too many accountants from other institutes who see themselves as little islands, and they think they can do everything and they don't need anybody else, and any kind of problem they can handle it. But
I've never met a firm where that's actually true.
No.
And in fact, because of communication issues, even the big four, they don't actually know what they sell. If you ask their partners, they couldn't, at the drop of a hat, tell you exactly what they sell. So they've got different challenges. But for CIMA practitioners, absolutely. I mean, we've always been there to help one another. It is part of our ethos, and that's why I believe that the members in practice panel is well regarded by CIMA itself and the management within CIMA, because obviously we're a gateway to the SME sector as well, and you know we are a nice family, if you like, to work with. Yeah,
no, I agree with that, and I think CIMA members often do think of us in that way as well. They definitely think that the panel is approachable and we can talk to them about their issues and things like that, try and find solutions, and also are keen to share ideas about how to do things. And I definitely agree that if you can feel like you're part of a team rather than trying to be I can do everything, then that is definitely the way to move forward in business, I think. So no, that's good. And of your services you offer, which are the most popular ones?
The top three, because it is a very broad range, you should say, going right out into the sales and marketing and all those fluffy areas as well. But the three key ones are really tax, the wealth management / financial services, and legal.
On the wealth management, do you work with IFAs? Is that
well, we've got over 40 people on the team on the wealth management side, 18 chartered financial planners. Obviously, a regulated business, and they deal exclusively with TAG accountants or accountants who may not be subscribing members but come to work with us. So my vision there was to sort of say, in the early days when I set up, I went on training courses with Scottish Amicable, trying to learn about pensions and life assurance and all the rest of it. And I tried to do the same with mortgages, and I became a authorised representative for Scottish Amicable. And very quickly I realised that there was enough to learn about and keep on top of with tax and accounting compliance. And then obviously movements forward in management accounting techniques and so forth. So I got plenty to do without trying to do all that other stuff. So the vision was to enable people to bolt a wealth management arm onto their practice literally overnight, and know that the regulation was all done properly and so forth. So that was the idea with that one.
Yeah, no, that's that range of services does sound pretty comprehensive, and just what clients would want from time to time. So that's very good.
Yeah.
Now I know as well you've been on the panel many times, and you were once at one point also the chairman as well. So tell us about your experiences on the panel.
Yes, I think that although we're doing it digitally, this will be my 28th year of attending the Members in Practice conference. I was kind of railroaded into joining the panel in its previous format. I think in 1992, when late 92, when I went to my very first meeting. It was something of a pressure group back in those days, and it was kind of fairly new still at that point. And what happened was we evolved from meeting one night down at the old offices in many years ago in Portland Place, and sort of getting home at gone midnight after those evening meetings at the Institute. Where it was taken forward by the chairman, who was 2 chairs before I became chair, Robin Tidd, said that we would meet 4 times a year for a whole day. And that was transformational in that we started to get more business done and make much more progress. Then when I served 6 years as vice chair, I moved on to become chair, and I still am the youngest ever chair of the MIP panel. Unfortunately, those days are long gone. But when I took it over, there was a deliberate move. I put together a manifesto, as I called it at the time, and we very much aligned the purpose of the MIP panel and what we're trying to achieve for the members in practice with the strategy objectives of CIMA at the time. This was before the joint venture, of course, going way back. So the panel and the institute and the council committees got closer and closer and closer as a result of that. So we moved on leaps and bounds thereafter. And as you know, Steve, that the Institute come to us for advice on what is happening in the SME sector and get our feedback on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, it's a very valuable thing, the panel, and it's it helped many people, but also it's a value to CIMA in terms of helping to steer things and helping to look after what is a relatively small number of the total membership of CIMA, but I think that perhaps in the current climate that might increase, because unfortunately we're going to go through a very difficult time and more people might be inclined to set up their own businesses. Perhaps not a lot of people need a catalyst to start their own business, I think.
Yes, you could look at that in 2 ways, couldn't you? You could say, there's going to be more accountants going into practice and running practices, ergo more competition. But in fact, if all the redundancies they're talking about do manifest themselves over the next couple of quarters, a lot of those people will turn their skills to starting businesses. And therefore, there's a lot of startup businesses that are going to need help of accountants, so there's a great opportunity there for, accountants who are sort of fresh and enthusiastic to help those new business startups. Yes. And then, as you say, with the backup, there's always somebody there to help on the panel. There's other organisations, as you know, on tax and other services that are there, so people don't need to be fearful. There is always help there, and if they don't know where to look, the panel will guide them to organisations that will help. So therefore, there is plenty of business out there, and with the skills of a CIMA practitioner, not every practice is geared up to be able to do advisory, and some of them are very much locked into compliance. And therefore, advisory and CIMA natural bedfellows. And one thing I would say about the joint venture with AICPA is a really strong upside of that, of course, is that probably 50% of the worldwide membership are now practitioners. So, it's gone from the old days when there was a bit of a almost something of a splinter group. 2% of CIMA were perhaps practitioners, or less than 2%, and obviously now that balance has completely shifted. So it's quite an interesting venture from CIMA's point of view, and I think it brings great value. Well, CIMA practitioners bring great value to the marketplace because of the unique skill set and training that they do get, and some of the experiences that they've had in organisations out in the field, if you like.
Yeah. No, it's certainly brought about a lot of change and a totally different perspective on things, because, of course, in America, CPAs are all in practice, essentially, pretty much, aren't they? So
it's a little bit less confusing for the public because there aren't different accounting bodies, whereas in the UK we've got that, and it's not a case of one body being better than the other. It's a case of being as good a practitioner as you can be, and obviously if you play to your skills in particular, then normally we're good at what we enjoy doing. And so some of our members in practice just purely do management accounting and advisory, and others have gone into the compliance, and some do both. So there's plenty of market share for everybody out there. I think the key question, though, if somebody is listening to this broadcast and is thinking of going into practice, then as with any advice we would give to a new startup business or somebody considering starting up a business, be absolutely sure it's right for you and what you want to do, because not everybody, it's a different set of risks and it's a different set of rules than being in employment or contracting through an agency, perhaps offering your management accounting skills. So you've got to be absolutely sure you want to do it and you want to embrace those risks. But I would say for those who build up a client base, and this to be true, Steve, you're actually more secure when you're self-employed if it's right for you, in that you've got a multitude of clients and income coming in from different places rather than being reliant on one source of income from a job.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think that once you've built up a base of clients, then you have a reliable income. You have you know that you're less at risk of losing everything all in one go. But it does take a very different mindset, because some people think it's like changing a job, and it's not like changing a job, because you're starting from not having might have a handful of clients maybe when you first start, and it's good to run some things alongside your existing work to start with, to build up a little bit of a starting point. But it does take time to get to where you want to be with it. It's not going to happen overnight, and you just need to get used to that different mindset, really, about how to think about things.
Yeah, I know when going back to 91, when I started my original practice, I literally just chucked everything in and went for it. And that is not advice I would give to anybody. But then again, I've probably made every possible mistake in the book along the way. And the key is, that you won't get everything right in business all the time. It just doesn't work that way. So what we are good at, another thing we're really good at as CIMA members, is risk assessment. And as long as you manage the risks in a sensible way, you'll make less mistakes. And don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask for help. At the end of the day, even with the biggest of practices, their clients just want to get the right help and get value for money and get things done on a timely basis. And as long as you can do those three things, they don't care whether everybody getting the solution for them is within your practice. They really don't care. So if anybody tells you, you know, they're better than you because they've got this practice with all these different arms, and so, just don't listen. Sorry, I'll tell you how it is. It's
yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And also, we live in an age now where people are much more inclined to think like that, because you can go on the internet, you can find experts in every field and all that kind of stuff. People would rather deal with somebody who's an expert in something,
sure.
rather than somebody that says they can do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. So what I wanted to ask about next is the actual conference, and we've got the link for the conference just there. So you've attended many conferences. This one's going to be very different because it's going to be a virtual conference.
Of course.
What have you found of value in conferences? What's good about the conference?
Well, there are great speakers there, and you will go away with some great content from the plenary sessions and the breakout sessions at the Members in Practice conference. On top of that, though, I remember a former vice chair on the panel, actually, when he was a young startup practitioner, saying, well, I'm not sure if I can afford to take a day out of practice and come along to the conference and pay all that money out for the conference. And my response was, well, you know, think of it another way. Can you afford not to come? And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, when you interact with the other members in practice, you will find them particularly helpful, and you will learn as much outside of the plenary and breakout sessions when you're just mingling and networking with the other members in practice as you do in the sessions. But then as the years go on, obviously, the more, so I believe successful people turn up for stuff. You know, you don't write business sat in the office, for instance. You don't learn new stuff just sat there twiddling your thumbs or just doing the same old, same old. So I think it is important to join in. It's important to get to know other people who've been through the processes and the learning curves. And really, as the years go by, as I say, the more things you attend, you very often, I hear people say, oh, we've seen that person speak, or we've heard that before, or that's not new. And it's almost like they're making excuses. And what the reality is, if you go away just with one little nugget from that 2-day conference, that can change your life. I mean, seriously change your life.
Yeah. No, I agree. I've learned a lot by going to SEMA events, and the local events as well as the conference. Tips on software, tips on how to do things, tips on where to get, ideas for your practice, stuff like that. It has been quite amazing, the number of things that I've picked up. And you wouldn't have thought that you were going to learn those things until you went.
No. And they're shortcuts as well, aren't they? So you could spend a lot of time, non-chargeable time, trying to research stuff on the internet or whatever. Whereas if you turn up to the conference, whether it be digital or a live event, I don't think it really matters, because either way you can engage with other members. You can go into private meeting rooms on the digital event, as it will be this year, and just chat to a number of members. You know, you can chat to the sponsors, you can chat to the speakers, and they will disgorge all this information that you otherwise might take you weeks, months, or years to learn. I've always been a great believer in, and I was stubborn. I was stubborn when I was young, and had to find it all out myself and learn it myself and do it myself. And then I over a few years, learned if you can learn in 10 minutes what it's taken somebody else 10 years or 20 years to learn, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. No, that's good advice.
And that's that's what the conference is for me. That's what it's about, really. It's about sharing knowledge and learning off each other as much as it is about the presentations.
Yeah, no. And as I say, we do have some great speakers. We've got some great sponsors, Free Agent, again, a sponsor of the conference, and so on, sort of thing. So there's lots of great opportunities there that you could find on ways that you could move into practice, or if you're existing in practice, ways to make things better for the way that you work.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity, and it's a very low cost this year because it's virtual as well. So it's
true, and you can make friends for life. You know, I've got people now that have been friends for, you know, coming up 28 or over 28 years. You know, since my first conference, who I would never have met probably, you know, without going along to those conferences in the early days, and I've made many friends since, which has been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic, Mark, and thank you very much for speaking to us today. I'm just going to bring it to a conclusion, but really appreciate you having you on and chatting about your experiences, which are very valuable to everybody, and also your support for SEMA members, which is fantastic. So thanks, Mark.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure, and thank you, Steve, and thank you for listening, everybody. Been great to share these insights with you, Steve, and share your insights as ever. So thank you once again.